Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on behalf of all BCYF staff and Mayor Wu. I want to thank you for partaking in this process. My name is Marta Rivera. I'm the interim commissioner of the Boston Centers for Youth and Families, and this is the second of a series of meetings and processes that will help inform our site study for a community center in Dorchester in the near future. And I want to especially thank those of you that took part in the first meeting. Your input has helped inform the process as we move along. And with that, I'm going to introduce, we have several teams that are working on this, and I'm going to take a minute to introduce folks. And then we're going to go quickly through some of the things that we reviewed in the first meeting, including the timeline, which I'm sure folks are anxious to know how quickly or how soon this is actually going to happen. And we'll give you an update on the progress. So with that, the first team, the BCYF team, and before I introduce folks, let me just quickly explain the team roles, and I'll keep it to a few words. So the Boston Centers for Youth and Families, or the BCYF team, our role in this is to essentially inform and provide our expertise as the entity that operates and runs these facilities and programs across the city. And the Public Facilities Department, they provide the data that helps inform this process, working across multiple departments. And the Office of Neighborhood Services and the Community Advisory Committee, that, as you can see, it consists of about maybe over a dozen residents and, people from throughout the Dorchester area. The ONS and the CAC will help to engage. Their role is to engage the community in a variety of ways. And finally, our consultant team, UTO Architecture and Planning, they are the folks who are facilitating this process and are going to help keep us on task and on time. So with that, I am going to quickly have our team introduce themselves and each of our folk panelists. So we have, I'm going to turn it over to Sandy, and maybe you can pass it along to BCYF folks.
Sure. I'm Sandy Holden. I'm the Public Information Manager, and I'm here to help share information about the process, update the website, answer any questions that come in, and happy to be here. I'll pass it on to Barbara Petchy, our Deputy Commissioner.
Good evening, everyone. Barbara Petchy, Deputy Commissioner of Operation and Finance for BCYF. Also happy to be here and happy to be part of a team to inform and engage. And I will pass it on to Dan Monahan.
We'll do it quicker, so we'll just say name and title, and then we'll pass it on to PFD. Thanks, folks. Sorry, Dan, are you there?
I think he's muted, so maybe
Oh,
Pat
okay.
next.
Yeah,
Okay, let's pass it on to Pat.
Yep, Dan has a can't talk option. Dan Monahan's the Regional Operations Manager, and my name is Pat McDonough. I am the BCYF Facilities Manager, and I'll pass it on to Sean Webb. Who's?
Yeah,
I think
Sean
that's it for our team.
Okay, so Sean Webb is the other regional operations manager for BCYF. There are two across Dorchester, and they oversee and work in partnership with the multiple Dorchester sites. So the public facilities team, I'll turn it over to Alistair for that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alistair Lux. I'm the staff architect for the Public Facilities Department, and I've been helping to manage the study process along with BCYF. And I believe I'm joined by a couple of my colleagues tonight. Is Niall Murphy here? He may not be a panelist yet, but Niall is the Chief of Staff for the PFD. And I also believe that the Chief of Operations for the City of Boston, Dion Irish, also might be either in the audience or on the panel. So if they are, feel free to introduce yourselves. And if not, I think we can go over to UTO.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brett Benson. I'm a principal at UTEAL. We are an architecture planning firm located in downtown Boston. And I'm joined by my colleagues, Andrew Namias and Alessandra Riccardi on the call tonight. Thanks for being here with us. Back to you, Marta.
Thank you, folks. And if there are electeds on the call, so I'd like to acknowledge them. The first meeting, I know we had representatives from our Dorchester electeds and at-large city council offices. So I want to thank you and acknowledge some of the offices that have been keeping their fingers on the pulse of this process and very interested on where we land.
So feel free, sorry, Marta, to interrupt. Feel free to raise your hand and we can allow you to unmute and introduce yourselves.
Hi, everyone. This is Julie Ryan from City Councilor Frank Baker's office. Just wanted to say hello. Thanks for having me. Can't wait to hear more during the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julie.
And Liana Poston, it looks like you can unmute.
Hi, Liana Poston from Representative Liz Malley's office. Good to see y'all tonight.
Thank you, Liana.
And we have one more, Brian W.
Great. And we also
Brian
have
Warren, Boston City Council District 4 elect.
Great.
And I also noticed that Dustin Gardner from Councilor Campbell's office also put something into the chat just to say that he was here as well.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us, Councilor. I'm looking forward to working with you in the future. And now, currently. So I want to, unless there's anyone else, I am going to move on, and we have on the agenda just to remind folks of the project goals. Watch the next slide. So over the course of the study, or the point of the study, is to essentially identify sites, potential sites for BCYF, what we call standalones, so BCYF community centers. And a standalone is freestanding facility, as opposed to a community center that exists within a Boston Public School, BPS facility. And so what we're looking to do is identify a site or potentially multiple sites. I think at this point, fair to say it'll be multiple sites. And so throughout this process, again, we're going to be looking to engage and gather feedback, and we've done that throughout the survey that has been circulating on our website, through social media. So we're going to thank all of those that have either shared it or filled it out, and want you to continue to do that. And later, UTEAL will talk about the importance of that, because one of my clarifying questions through this process was why we were talking about programming if we hadn't yet identified the site. And they'll explain why later. And so I, again, wanted to just review these slides quickly because we had gone through these in the first meeting, but just, again, to clarify the purpose of the study, and that the focus is on identifying the site. And once the site is identified, that helps inform the budget for this project. We can go on to the, I'm going to turn it over to I think Alistair for study process and the schedule. Thank you.
There was one additional slide. The map was just of some of the existing BCYF sites that exist in Dorchester, as well as some of the other facilities that offer community center and recreational facilities, just to give us a sense of what existing services are already being offered. So then,
oh no, I was going to just add that. Thank you for pointing that out. So the other thing we have done is there are other programming and facilities that we have explored or looked at. So there are various criteria and factors in determining the site. And of course, the location of our existing facilities is one of them, and other recreational and youth programs as well. So thank you. Back to you, Alistair.
okay, if you could advance one more slide. Yeah, so this is a timeline that shows a typical study process through design and construction for a municipal project. And it's important to note that we're at the very, very start of this process. So our study is expected to take approximately 8 months. And this is the second of potentially 4 community meetings that we're in right now. And after we conclude the study, there'll be a budgeting process that might last 6 to 12 months. If we're looking at acquiring new property to build a new community center, that could add another 6 to 12 months, to allow us time to acquire that property. And then a design process for a community center might take about 12 months. And there'll be additional community meetings during that time, many additional opportunities for the community to have input on how the community center will look, what kind of features it will have, where it will be located on the site, et cetera, et cetera. And then after that design process is finished, the project is then publicly bid, and it goes into a construction phase, which might take 2 to 2.5 years for a facility this size. And then once the construction is complete, obviously, then the center can open and start to serve the community. So that's just important to keep this all in sort of a reference or a time frame, and so you all know that we're just starting out here. There's plenty of time to work on details, add additional community input. So next slide, please. Oh, it's up there. Okay, so this is a more detailed look at just the study portion, and what we've been working on since the last community meeting is the programming. We've sort of been working closely with BCYF to determine what as an organization, what their programming needs. And we hope to hear from all of you tonight and moving forward what some of the community feedback on desired programs, what works in some of the existing centers, what doesn't work, and how can we add or modify programs to best suit the community in Dorchester. And then once that program is kind of determined, we'll work on site selection and making sure that the sites that we've identified are large enough and appropriate to fit the desired program. And for those of you who don't know, program refers to the activities and the square footage that's required to support the activities. So, if there's a program for arts and crafts, how big does that room need to be to hold the types of arts and crafts activities that the community center wants to host, and what types of architectural features are needed to support those activities. And then we'll use that information about the site and that confirmation that the site works to then work on a concept design. It's not a binding design, but it's a design that we know at the very least could work on the site. And then once the study is completed and we move into the design phase, then that concept design is kind of reworked and developed further. So the point of the study is not to come up with a finished design, it's just to kind of take one very quick first pass at it to make sure that, yeah, this site, this program can be developed further. It's worth pursuing, and we're just to confirm that we're sort of on the right path before we invest more time and money into the process. So that's kind of an overview of the study process. It concludes with the final report in hopefully May of 2022. And that will be made publicly available for everybody to review. And the report will kind of contain all the information we've developed throughout the study, as well as documenting the community feedback. And it's a pretty pretty exhaustive document where we really hope to capture all the details. And I think with that, I'll pass it over to Brett from UTL, who'll be going through some of the initial programming work we've done and talk about ways that the community can add to that work and enhance it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Alistair. So I just want to dive right in and note that on this slide, we're showing the many different types of uses and activities that happen in BCYF centers. And they're arranged from the most common at the top to the least common at the bottom. And as Alistair was saying, understanding the types of programs that happen in BCYF centers is really important because each one of these takes up a certain amount of space and has specific requirements. And as we group these together, a building size begins to take shape. And in turn, the building size helps us figure out what size sites we need to find in Dorchester and helps us plan for budget. These programs can be grouped into 4 broad categories: community and education, arts, fitness and sports, and outdoor spaces. And we use these categories to help us understand where the community's priorities are in terms of the types of activities and uses that are important in a new BCYF center in Dorchester. So we first polled the CAC members live during our last Zoom meeting. That was back in October. And we followed up with an online survey as well. And as of this morning, we had received 222 responses to the survey from all across Dorchester. And this survey will remain live, and we ask you to encourage your neighbors to fill this out so we can continue to evolve the study. So in the next few slides, I'll give you a snapshot of the results, which have guided us in developing an initial building program. So in the community and education category, we ask people to prioritize spaces focused on learning and gathering. And overwhelmingly, people prioritized flexible spaces for community rooms, but we also know that children's, teens, and senior rooms are all important. So we'll focus on flexibility as we develop these spaces in detail. And in the arts category, we ask people to prioritize spaces that range from music spaces to performance spaces, to arts rooms, to maker spaces with specialized equipment. And art rooms and performance spaces were the priority, followed by music spaces and maker spaces. Fitness and sports spaces ranged from the very specialized, such as pools and weight rooms, to the flexible, such as yoga and dance studios. And the priorities were indoor pools, paired with weight rooms and yoga dance studios. And next we asked about fitness and sports activities in gyms, which range from basketball courts to rock walls to spectator seating. Basketball courts and an indoor running track have been clear favorites in the survey so far. And outdoor spaces range from casual gathering spaces, like the entrance to the Roxbury Library on the upper left, to more structured play spaces to access to adjacent athletic fields. Playscapes were the most popular, followed by entry gathering spaces and having access to athletics fields. So we used all of this information to assemble what we're calling the ideal program for a new BCYF facility. And you can think of this drawing as a set of 3D Lego blocks that will get put together to make a building. So just looking at this in a little bit in detail, you can see that the entrance to the building with an outdoor gathering space is in front. There's a group of flexible community and education rooms, children's room, youth room, senior center, computer room, and teen center. There's a dedicated community room that is near the front door, and art spaces, including a performance space, art room with makerspace equipment, and music room. Fitness includes a gym with indoor running track, an indoor pool, weight room, and flexible fitness studio. And it also includes an outdoor play space and adjacency to athletics fields that could be managed by the Parks Department or other city departments. And all of these added together result in a 57,000 square foot building that's at least 2 stories tall and requires a minimum lot size of 47,000 square feet. I know that sounds incredibly precise right now, but just keep in mind that these are all preliminary numbers, but we need to have a starting point to work from somewhere. So all of that brings us to the process of selecting sites for a new BCYF. And there's 5 components to this process, and I'll go through each one on the next few slides. So first is to determine the types of uses and activities in the building. And this is already well underway with the community input we just reviewed through the survey. Next is to determine the size of the site we need to fit the BCYF Center. And in this, we need to have some options available to us so we can cast a wide net for sites. The ideal program would have a minimum site of 47,000 square feet. That's just over an acre, with access to athletics fields. Now that's a pretty big site with very specific requirements. And we're expecting that we won't be able to easily find such a site. So we're going to need to be flexible with our requirements. The next would be to look at sites without the athletic fields, but we still need to find over an acre of land. And then next we would look at a more compact building program. Maybe we don't include a pool at each of the sites, or we shrink the size of the gym. This will give us more flexibility to find more smaller lots all across the neighborhood. But before we make any changes to the ideal program, we want to engage the community and the CAC in identifying specific sites across Dorchester with an interactive mapping tool we're launching tonight. And we'll put the link here in the chat, and this will be available once the PDF of the show goes online. And by clicking this link in the chat or here on the slide, people can identify sites that they would like us to study as a home for the new BCYF Center. So we'll gather all this information and present it back to everyone at our next community meeting. We're really looking forward to having as many or more responses as we received to the survey to this mapping tool. So once we have a good data set of sites assembled, we'll evaluate the relative cost and timeline of building on the site. So for example, the shortest timeline will be a city-owned parcel or building that is underused, an empty lot or an outdated building. The longer timeline would be a publicly owned parcel that has a complicated acquisition process, turning a park into a building, for example, or building near the waterfront. The longest timeline will be private parcels, and these might be the most expensive as well, considering land costs and potential cleanup costs. And the last step in the evaluation process is testing in 3 dimensions how a new BCYF Center can fit on the sites that get identified. This is the step where we put together the 3D Lego blocks to see if a building will fit. Each site is unique, so it's important for us to test how a building could fit on each site. And we'll be showing progress on these test fits in the future meetings. And with that, I want to open it up to questions. And Sandy Holden from BCYF will be our moderator. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and Sandy will read them out so that we can respond. Thank you.
I don't see any yet. I don't think I'm missing any.
Maybe from the chat, maybe folks are dropping questions in the chat, or we can share some of the comments, suggestions.
We had some suggestions from Mike, which are good, and I got that, wrote that down.
Yeah, they were very good. I agree, Sandy. I forgot those different sites in Dorchester. Those
So,
great.
yeah. So I was going to say
We have
the map. Sorry, I just want to point out. So the map that was shared is not complete. There are other sites that we're aware of that were not on there. And so, I mean, there's others again that provide either, programming or have space. So I want to make that comment. So if we can, add those other ones. Sandy, do you have any?
We had a question about play space, which I'm not sure. It just says play space is with a question mark. Maybe if we could get a little more in there. And then we had a question about, do we have a short list of potential sites? And then how does this correlate with the site across from the Grove Hall Senior Center?
Well, I can start with the parcel across the old bubble, the parcel across from the Grove Hall Senior Center. So that was brought up at the last meeting. And at the time there was it was Carrie shared information that it had been, it's being, it's going to be a park and it's under parks. So those plans are under, they're halted. So Commissioner Ryan Woods spoke to him, Carrie Griffin, and so there are any plans to do anything with that parcel is currently on pause until we can finish this study. So that's on the table for as part of this study as well.
And Sandy, I can address the play space question. So
Okay.
what we're imagining is the play space is it's an outdoor playground. It would be geared toward different age groups of kids, but be an outdoor space for people to be able to enjoy outdoor activities.
And then we had a follow-up, play space. This person believes that you said play space had the highest priority. What type of play space is that? Any particular?
That's right. So in the survey results,
Any particular age?
Any particular age, yes. So in the survey results, of the 222 we'd received so far, the playscapes were the highest priority according to the survey results. I can try and back up to that slide. So everybody can see it. Oops, sorry for the slide lag here. So just over 70 people identified that as their top priority. Other outdoor spaces that were identified were a kind of entry gathering space. This image of the Roxbury Library that we recently completed is an example of that, a kind of casual hangout space at the front door for people to meet. And then athletic fields, access to athletic fields was another important component in those survey results. And as I mentioned, I just want to plug this. This continues to be live and will continue to evolve as the study goes along. So as more responses come in, we'll be able to tailor our building program and the site selection to those better.
Thank you. We had a question from our friend Ted about whether anyone's done a tour of other sites in, I'm guessing you mean other cities or local cities, local areas besides Boston. And then Mike asked about, Cynthia, what you're asking about is the lot Mike's asking about across from, oh wait, not the library. Yeah, across from the library and the senior center. So Mike and Cynthia are asking about the size of that lot. And then Ted asked if we've toured other cities for ideas. I think we have a lot size. I don't think we've toured other cities at this point yet.
So the lot size would fall under the medium. So the UTO showed how they have a small, medium, large. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brett.
That's right. And as I said, we haven't done any deep dive test fits yet. We really want to try and get as many sites identified from the community through that mapping tool that we linked to as possible. If this were in person, we'd have a big map in front of us and we could all sit around and talk about it. Unfortunately, just given the state of the world right now, this all has to be done online. So we're hoping for everybody to be able to participate with that mapping tool and add as many sites as possible. You will be able to see on that map, it will be a satellite photo with street names and the ability to pin a certain site and add your comments to it. And so we're really looking forward to getting those comments.
So we have a comment here, which everybody can read, and I will definitely note your contact information. That's great. Very excited to have you here. We aren't just talking about the outdoors today at all. And then this question about whether the site will be funded in perpetuity. Yes, because all of our centers have been funded since they came about, with the exception of some that have been, run by partners, or that the space was needed back from the schools. I don't know, we've got a budget that we get funded every year, so I don't see this site is coming about and then closing. And then if there was an outdoor question, feel free to ask it, definitely.
Sorry, did Sandy please? Oh, just reading the comments.
Yeah, I'm just reading. Yes, the site's vital to Grove Hall, the site that's very popular. We definitely have that one on our radar for sure.
Yeah. So I think just a comment about the, I think folks are sort of alluding to asking about, you know, the play space and outdoors. And I want to emphasize something that Alistair and Brett both said, that the space conversation, and this is why I noted this in my comments when I first spoke, the conversation about how the space is being used, it's very early on. That happens during the design, but the reason we're having the conversation now as part of this process is because it helps determine the size of the lot and how the space in the building will be amassed. So this is not to determine currently what is going to be used. It's to identify the site. So I don't want folks to feel like, oh, there's, you know, 300 people have determined how the building is going to be utilized and what programming is going to happen. Not at all. We're still, again, you saw the timeline. We're still far from making the programmatic decisions on how or what's going to happen in the building, but it helps to determine the lot and building size. So please continue to push the survey out. We still want to hear, obviously, from more people. That, you know, 200 and under 300 doesn't even begin to scratch the surface. Dorchester is our largest neighborhood. And we are doing that through our community centers, our staff, and the community of the CAC, ONS, and all the departments. But the more we can push that out, the more informed we can be. And then I think I'd seen a comment about, someone asked about the diversity of the leadership and racial diversity. Know that we're looking at this through an equity lens always. And that this does not represent BCYF or BCYF's leadership. We have not just racial diversity, but also ethnic diversity, certainly on our team, and especially at our sites. When we walk into our sites look very much like the communities they're in. And that's something we take a great deal of pride in. And, you know, folks who have years and even decades of serving the city through BCYF. So we welcome you to, if you haven't, visit your local community center, visit other community centers. And to Ted's point, we have a few buildings that are fairly new and have been renovated. So if there's anything in those buildings that can that you like and want to bring back, and if you see anything in another municipality or city, please let us know. And I think it was Joseph who made the comment about community centers and not being neglected. Please show up for the City Council budget hearing and support us. We're going to be making lots of big asks. Love to see you there.
So we're all caught up at the moment, it looks like.
So if there aren't any other questions, maybe we can wrap up with the next steps and turn over to Alistair, you too.
Sandy, it looks like there might be a couple questions in the Q&A too that you want to take a look at.
So, oh, surprise. How will this center be different than the last project? And then is it possible to add city-owned lots to the interactive map along with their square footage so that people can see what options would be easiest for the city to move on? Very
So
good point.
I'll answer that question, Dustin. Yes, it is possible for us to add more information to the map. It would be great if you want to take a look and for everybody on the call to take a look. And if there are improvements to the map, please suggest them. We've started by adding BCYF sites and other community oriented recreation sites. There were some more mentioned in the chat that we'll be sure to add to the map as we move forward. And we can also add some of the city-owned parcels that we've already identified with their square footage, just to give a sense for everybody out there of how big everything is. I know that when we talk about square footage, it's pretty abstract to everybody.
Could the PDF files be referred to and how? So on our website in the morning, this presentation will be there along with the map where you can pin your suggested locations. I'm going to put our website here. It's the same as the last location, like you'll find the first meeting presentation there too. So this one will be there in the morning as well. What size would that be? Oh, let me slide down here. Okay, great. When and where will video of this meeting be available? So we can pop it up when we get it. So usually it's a day or two, I think. So it should be by the end of the week. We'll pop it up. I can get it to you, Seth, too. If you're the Seth that we know, I have your email, so I'm happy to send it. And in your design, you will take in account parking needs of the facility.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alistair.
Yes.
Yeah, that's something we will kind of talk about with BCYF during the study, so that we're kind of having a placeholder for the required number of spots, and that will, in turn impact our site decision, impacts the cost of the project. But it's important. It's a good point to bring up. It's important that you can't kind of oversight or overlook the parking requirements. So it's good to kind of study that now, and then when we enter into the design, we'll have made the proper preparations for ensuring that there's proper amount of parking.
That's actually a good question and excellent point, because with any new development project, it's something that's factored in, right? You have to do the traffic study and provide parking, but we're not solving parking issues. There's just never going to be enough parking. It's the city. So I almost put that disclaimer out there that even the requirements, per whatever square footage that the project is, it's never going to solve the problems of parking.
Looks like we have a bar graph question coming, maybe.
I was going to say, is there a way to pull this one down? Because I think people are fixated on this. That's what's there.
Bar graph has two colors of blue.
I'll answer that. So the two colors of blue, the darker blue were the live Zoom poll answers that we got at the last meeting. And then the lighter blue color is the survey results. So we thought that was important just to kind of track the live results we were getting and see how they overlaid with the survey results. And in large part, they paralleled, just amplified each other with the survey results. Thanks for the question.
Do you want, as we wait for questions to come in, do you want to remind folks, in case anyone missed it, of the timeline? Go back to the timeline. Alistair, do you mind reviewing that so folks know that we're trying to push the survey out and try to get this as many in before the May deadline?
Yeah, that would be helpful if we can get the timeline slide up. So yeah, here we are. We started in October 2021. We had our first meeting on October 18th, and now here we are in December. We're in the programming phase, and we have you know, maybe January, February, March, April, 4 more months that will be working on the site selection and test fits and concept design, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation. So we plan the survey results open till approximately March or April of 2022. But the sooner you can respond, the better for us. The more time we'll have to kind of make sure we're getting an accurate read from the community and their feelings about the program. But really our goal is to just capture as much feedback as we possibly can. So that's why we'll be holding the survey open right up till the end. We do have to close it out eventually, you know, by April at the latest, just so we can kind of compile all the results and put them into the final report. So, you know, we do have to close it eventually, so we can do that. But as I also said earlier, there's going to be a whole nother community process during the design phase. So we'll be a little bit further along in the process, but there will still be many, many decisions that are open during that phase that require community feedback. So if anybody isn't able to participate during the study, or if they have new different ideas that evolve between now and the design phase, there will be other opportunities to kind of re-examine what we looked at in this study, come up with new ideas. You know, that's it's still in the infancy right now, so there's time to really shape the way this moves forward. That said, we do want to be productive, so we're not going to just start over again during the design necessarily. The study is an important time to kind of gather information that really helps us make decisions that move the project forward.
Thanks, Alistair. Sandy, someone was asking to put the survey link in the chat. I think it was either shared already. I just want to make sure.
I think that she was saying she would share it, the link, but I can pop it in there definitely.
Thank you. And it's presently on our website. That's boston.gov/BCYF. And you can also find their demographic slide information. Dustin asked whether the age, demographic, and population size of different areas of Dorchester are taken into consideration. Absolutely. So things like density, population, age, all of those things will factor into the decision. And of course, what existing facilities and programs and services. And again, some of those slides are already on our website. We shared it the first time towards the end, I believe, right? With a sort of we didn't do the overlay yet, but we will be doing the overlay of the information that I provided, certainly the age, demographic information, population size. Thank you. Okay, we're yeah, more questions, Sandy?
I don't see any more. I think we've been keeping on them.
I think there's one in the Q&A, Sandy.
Oh, a new one? Oh, I always miss that little part. Now I got Seth's question. Was there a new one? City-owned demographics. Could the survey link? Here, let me do this.
Sorry. There's how many, confirm again, how many BCYF facilities are in our plan over the coming years. So we don't have a figure, and these site studies help to inform that. So initially the site study, again, there was a community center in mind, and now there's a potential for multiple. There are other communities that don't have freestanding facilities that we're considering or looking at, and there are site studies for other parts, for those communities as well. So at this time, we don't know total over the next, let's say, 5-10 years. But we expect that there'll be multiple Dorchester, and we're looking at, Charlestown, North End, potentially Elston, Brighton. It's quite a few. Fingers crossed.
I don't see any more.
If all the questions are answered, I didn't want to start wrapping up if folks have other questions, but I think, and that's actually one of the things we wanted to do was to report back on progress. And Ted, I recognize it's a whole new world, and doing it this way is not the same as doing a public meeting, but this is, and it's a different format than we did the first time. So we're trying out different formats for the purpose of today's meeting because it was mostly reporting back and informational. We tried this format, and the purpose was again to inform, but also keep us on time and not run over, and just be respectful and as succinct as possible while also gathering, responding to questions and gathering more information. So I will just close with that, unless there's other next steps. Sandy, right?
I would just add that we do hope to hold our next community meeting in February of 2022, hopefully. And that also we do hope to be working a little more closely with the CAC membership moving forward. So we'll be meeting with them in the new year as well to work on some of those plans.
Thank you. There's one more question.
One more. I was asked after the last meeting if it had to be one building. For example, if there are several sizable city lots in close proximity but not connected, could it be a campus-like center? Good question, Seth. I don't know. That's probably to be determined, honestly, based on all the things we're working with people to figure out. Programming and what the facility would entail and all that kind of stuff. And then the other question was where to find the October meeting information. That's at our website right now, which right on the home page, which I'll put in here again, boston.gov. Wait for the sirens. boston.gov/BCYF.
There's a question about the attendance. I think at the height we had about 47 people on. Is that correct? Or did we break 50?
Yep, that's the highest number I saw. Yes.
Yeah. And then the first meeting there were, I don't know if we had nearly 40. Was it 38 the first one? Or was it more?
First meeting was in the 30s, I think, or low 30s. And then let's see, we've got another, otherwise, Mike, did I miss first? Otherwise, the CAC is only on paper. Oh, 56 at the first meeting, said Dustin. Wow, great.
Doesn't it, so we had, so minus our staff, because we had about a dozen of our own staff. So minus our staff, there were about 38. And so we had, like our administrative coordinators, which are the site directors from the sites attend, and quite a few staff. So we had didn't account for those folks, and don't know what will happen. It's not as if the intent is to close one center when we open another. So to be determined, Sandra, with regards to the senior center. Again, too soon to tell. I will also add that although the next meeting is in February, we're going to continue to push this survey out. We will continue to, I know a couple of the centers are doing other activities to engage and get feedback and have those surveys filled out. And they are in multiple languages, by the way, in the flyers, and we provide translation in, I believe, 6 or 7 primary languages that we know represent residents in Dorchester speak. And we had, we didn't have a request for translation at this meeting, but at the first one we did. And it's a simultaneous translation. That everything? Okay, so I'm gonna thank everyone for your questions and
Martha, there's one question on Q&A I think we didn't catch about the senior center at the Grove Hall.
oh, I responded to that. I said there
Yeah,
wasn't.
that one she did. But Mike asked, give us more lead time on setting meeting dates. You're conflicting with existing resident meetings, and February has vacation week, and this is holiday time period.
Noted. And we want to get one more meeting in before the end of the year. And seeing that it was virtual, we thought it would be at least convenient. But noted, Mike.
Yeah.
I think if we wait in line for all of these things to happen, we'll never get the center off the ground. And because this is not the only way to engage people, I want to again, at least for this part of the study, just encourage folks to, fill out the surveys, and we will continue to engage you and keep you informed. Do the same. The information is on our website, and do reach out. So thank you all again, and have a wonderful evening and happy holidays to all.
Thank you, everyone.